Hi everyone. Thanks for so much for joining us for the Q&A of The Bookmakers. I hope everyone enjoyed the film. Please remember that this film is available for an audience award, so don't forget to rate all the films that you watch when you're done. I also want to thank the sponsor of this film, Ann Robinson, and our major sponsors. We wouldn't be able to pull this off without you. And we're so excited to have director James Kennard here with us today. And thanks so much for joining us. And where are you joining us from today?
I'm basically in Hollywood, Los Angeles.
Awesome.
High town, but yeah, that's right.
Not so far away. So first off, I really loved your film. I saw it at Mill Valley this year, or last year, and
cool.
And yeah, I was like, this is a perfect film for our festival, and just something that I know our audiences will care about. I would love to know a little more about how you started following this story and how you got into following these bookmakers.
Yeah, I've tried to boil down a version of this a few times, and then basically, there's a short film I first did about the Arion Press. Actually, some footage is in there. That's where Mark Sorgianis, who's kind of our star, he's where he started out. And I even got to know the Arion Press, which is my first introduction to like knowing that actually like craft bookmaking still existed in any kind of significant way. Was just getting to know Mark socially. He was just a friend of a friend. We just were at parties, and he said, "You should come by and like check out the shop because it's pretty cool." And at the same time, coincidentally, my dad, who's the senior producer on it, I mean, he's the second in the line of documentarians, got to know Arion Press because our funders for the feature film were on the board there. And so we did a short film. We all liked it. Everyone went away happy. And there was always the talk of like, oh, we should do more. We should do about like the whole world of like artist bookmakers. And then, yeah, like a year later, those conversations actually started happening and kind of it's a while ago now. It took a while to make a movie, but in like fall of 2015, it was pretty clear we were going to get the green light. And then I was like, went to Mark and was just like, all right, let's just start filming stuff. This is going to be great. So that's kind of the origins. It also helped, just coincidentally, I lived only about 5 blocks from the Arion Press. So it was, it was in the neighborhood. And so, yeah.
And so how many years, were you documenting this then?
I mean, so Arion Press was that short, which a little footage still exists in the main movie. That was 2014. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the past year has been about releasing the thing, but it's still, you could basically count it as having taken 5 years, which was not the plan, but it tends to sort of happen with documentaries sometimes.
Yeah.
And ours changed shape a few times. At one point, it was way more about the whole story of the book, including a lot more about book history of the book, and like publishing. And then we realized we should boil it down and focus on what kind of I was most interested in the first place, which is just artists, you know, like individual characters and what they think about it all. So
yeah. I love the kind of vignettes on everyone, and specifically, him, you know, you kind of always come back to that story, and I think also it's interesting to have someone so young who's into something that, you know, people are saying is kind of dying.
He's an outlier, you know. He I mean, genuinely, in the whole trade, it's debated, like, is there something wrong because when you go to Codex, it's a lot of older people? But it's not, because it's just, it takes such a huge investment of just equipment. If you want to make books a certain kind of way and everything, that you only get a few crazies who are really like, you know, down to just go all in. You know, there's lots of people who do letterpress and do wonderful stuff, but oftentimes, you know, they've got a side business really just printing, you know, wedding invites and things, and that to really be a bookmaker in all the parts, you got to apprentice basically. So it's tough.
And so I'm curious, what was it like going to that conference with, like, there was just kind
Codex.
of this, the Codex there's just like this frenzy of just excitement, and I'm wondering, like, what that was like.
I mean, it was really,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it was shoot day, so you know, it's
Yeah.
like fun, but also just work. But it was very cool because it was always planned as like, oh, for this story, that is like an obvious culmination. Everyone comes together. We know the date is happening, and it was lovely because it was cool to see all these different faces. I'd individually gotten to know and visit studios all in the same place at the same time. Happy to see me again.
Hmm.
In fact, there's a little, it's short, but when we pick up Veronica Shapers, the German lady from the
Hmm.
airport, um, you know, I just emailed her saying like, oh, when are you getting in? We'll just give you a ride if you let us film that, even though you'll be
Yeah.
tired and everything. And then she gave me this whole like nice like care package of like things as a thank you. I'm like, oh, she's a very sweet lady.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to see everyone. And then there's actually some material. There's like a final drinks and you know dinner at the end, which the
Hmm.
footage wasn't necessary for the film, but it was just kind of cool to be like, oh, I've gotten to know all of you individually, kind of from around the world, and
Hmm.
now we're all just hanging out. You're all,
Yeah.
I love you all. So it was good.
And so I'm guessing the event happens every year, right?
It's
Am
every
I guessing
2 years,
every
and
year?
it's not happening. It should have happened around
Mhm.
now actually, but obviously not given circumstances. So yeah, but it's kind of even in the Bay Area, I think it's under acknowledged or just under publicized a little bit. Not to
Mhm.
criticize people who publicize it, but because it's free to the public.
Mhm.
You just have to get out to Richmond, you know, in the Bay Area,
Mhm.
and it's awesome. Uh, they almost don't want it overly publicized because their biggest thing for all the artists there is like actually talking to collectors,
Mhm.
and it's exhausting and days of just those kind of conversations. But
Mhm.
but you know still want people to know about it. They like having like there's the students in the film who you know are encouraged to go and all that.
Mhm.
Once it's happening again, I would encourage anyone to go see it. I mean, like any kind of fair for any kind of trade, it's worth just checking out because it's a niche little world.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One time in SF, I just like randomly in Golden Gate Park stumbled into the vintage paper fair. And it was similar in that sense of like just these collectors who just love this super tactile thing and talking
Yeah.
to people. And like, it was like, I think we went in a joke like paper, and then it just was like, it was the best thing I ever did, like it was
Oh,
so
it's my
fun.
favorite thing. If you can get into any kind of like trade organization like event, you'll suddenly realize like, oh, to them, this is the entire universe.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that exists in Golden Gate Park. And
Yeah.
I researched a lot for this film, so dang,
You
yeah.
never know these days. But so like what's been the reaction to the film? Because I mean, for me personally, I just loved it because yeah, that tactile experience. And we have another film in the festival this year about vinyl, which kind of touches on that
Oh,
same energy, is
mhm.
that, we live in an age and we're having a virtual festival where everything's virtual, but it's so nice to touch
Yeah.
those books and those pieces of art, and yeah, so
Um,
I'm just curious what people have said and everything.
yeah, I mean, it's been good.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of just people seeing it, you know, we ended up going on public television. American public television ended up taking us, which uh, was not the original plan. We ended up being basically an hour, and then it went really well. It means our funders don't make any money because it's public television,
Mhm.
but we got picked up by like 90 something percent of the stations across the country. So a lot of people have seen it, and then people have like directly reached out to me. I don't know, often actually abroad, where right now we don't have like international distribution. We've
Mhm.
got a couple wanting the thing, and I always say, if you ask me directly, I'll give you a link to it. But
Mhm.
just don't share it around. But no, yeah, a lot of people reaching out enjoyed it. We did it right. You know, you always have the thing with a documentary of just like, well, okay, I take all this material, you know, I filmed with you in your studio, and I go and like make some like invented version of reality. I hope I don't get you wrong because you're not going to be in the edit room. You don't get to do that. But no, everyone was super happy. You know, even the ones where I was like feeling like, am I overly pushing the angle on this person? Like Peter Koch for all, he's the guy, you know, who's doing his like lead book, and it's like,
Mhm.
I'm like, and it was a stormy day, but I kind of like, it's pushed in the film, you know, but I'm
Mhm.
like, well, yeah, you're kind of like a darkly humorous person, and that is your personality, so let's just lean into that. But no, everyone was just happy. I mean, really, the biggest reaction, I mean, in general, audiences, they can like as much as they want, but I'm really glad for like the bookmakers themselves. They thought I didn't get it wrong,
Mhm.
so that's what mattered more to me. I mean,
Yeah.
anyone else can think, you know, the movie's as interesting or
Yeah.
boring as much as they want, but you know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no,
Especially when you've spent so much time with them and
they've
you
given a lot of time.
yeah, they've
Yeah,
given a lot of time. Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely can see, yeah, how that can be in any kind of documentary. Yeah, you have a, a loyalty to them a little bit.
yeah. Especially because I mean, it isn't journalistic in the fact in the way that it's meant to be uncovering some kind of expose or something like that.
Mhm.
It's trying to explain a world I think a lot of people don't know exists. You know, like
Mhm.
when I tell people at a party, they're like, "Yeah, I guess people make books, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you know, there's all this
Yeah.
other stuff." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'm curious about the main guy, Mark, I think is
yeah. Mark, yeah, Mark
yeah.
Sochianis.
So what is he up to now? And is he making more books after that one? Did it wear him out?
No, no, man,
Yeah.
he's carrying on. If anything, you know, if we just kept filming, it would have been a nice little coda. He last year, yes, it would have been, moved to Maryland, which is actually he's from Virginia, so a bit like near his
Mhm.
family. Yeah, he moved all the equipment out. He's actually been on some other Q and A's I've done, just
Mhm.
showing his studio. He was just like, all right, I put in my time being in this like weird industrial space, and now they got some land. He has a baby
Mhm.
now. Um, they just have like, yeah, like property. He's got
Mhm.
big ass space where he's got his like studio with all the equipment, and he's like, yeah, and probably I will die here because it's just finally built out in the
Yeah.
way like all an investment, because he wants to do it, you know, the old like hot metal, really traditional way.
Wow.
But he's doing good. I was in touch with him recently, just for a different thing. But like, yeah, I don't know. He's working on a new book called "Consider the Oyster." It's an older text about like
Mhm.
oysters, and it's
Oh, cool.
coming together. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's carried on there, and his wife is a teacher, and you know she got a job, and I don't know. I can't wait to someday go out there and stay. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I mean, gosh, even making the film, you know, you didn't know if it was all going to work out or if he would get like evicted from American Steel, which is a pretty like crazy place.
Mhm.
Uh, but no, I mean, after the tragedy of Davy Johnson, his friend
Mhm.
dying at the very start,
Mhm.
I mean, it's the arc of the movie, a happy ending in some sense that he has been able to achieve that rarely achieved dream of like being a real traditional like book maker in that sense, fine press book, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he's good. He's
Yeah.
still doing good. Yeah, and he's still
That's so
friendly.
awesome. And yeah, I love, you just can tell how passionate and thorough he is through every part of it, and obviously, yeah, when
Mhm.
it was his friend, like it's even more a motivator to fix it, but I'm glad that he's still doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. He's
Um,
got like blue collar ethos in his bones,
yeah.
while also being, you know, lefty weirdo and all kinds of stuff. You know, he's like, yeah, I mean, he's a friend. I love hanging out with him. But like he
Yeah.
just loves just getting like diving into things. I mean, he's really actually a great cook too. He gets into stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling he just seems to have that kind of mind, and I feel like everyone in the film, yeah, there is like a level of technical knowledge you need to have, and they kind of all, yeah, are just super smart people, uh,
Yeah,
interesting
yeah.
people.
They're the people. I was thinking about this lunch before we got on the Zoom. Was just John Demerit, who's the bookbinder, who's in briefly before Codex.
Mhm.
He is not in the film, but he mentioned to me, he's just like, yeah, you know, you can be an artist. He would tell this like to his like students, like, it's
Mhm.
possible. You just have to maybe take a vow of poverty and
Mhm.
just throw everything into it. But
Mhm.
you know, if you just give up certain things, like, yeah. So
I love that.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we some of us know that too well.
Yeah,
So
even in documentaries, yes.
I'm sure.
Documentaries don't make money, but
Yeah.
they are fun and interesting, and you learn about things. So it's good.
Yeah, on that note, what are your, now that you, I mean, this is quite a long chapter for you, this film. What are you working on next? And yeah, what are you going to
Um,
focus on?
yeah, I mean, actually, funny enough, while I was making the film, it's not like I didn't take on like other gigs every so often. Like I'd go and
Hmm.
like, oh, great, I've got like a shoot day that pays a good rate, and
Hmm.
makes it all the ends meet. Um, I've got plans for other documentary stuff, but right now I'm working on someone else's documentary series. So it's something called Saving the City,
Hmm.
um, produced by Ron Blattman, who is his baby. Funnily enough, actually a Bay Area production. Again, even though I'm not there, we're doing it all remotely. But it's with people I've sort of knew before, and it's about like how we can like make cities work in the future, and like how we've screwed up or gotten things right in different cities. And it's intended for PBS eventually, but it kind of hit a sticking point with the main show, and so I got brought in to start doing a bunch of shorter web videos where you just take like individual stories and just tell them right.
Hmm.
And after we jump off this Zoom, I will be getting back into laying in the final voiceover for that. One of the reasons I actually have a proper voiceover set up is because I've been having to do all the temp voiceover, which has been terrible because I have to then hear myself back every time I watch my edit. But
Yeah.
yes, I'm stoked on it. Video will be coming out, the first one, like actually has to be in a few days. So
Okay.
Saving the City is what I'm doing now. I am Ron's trusty editor, and I'll be shooting some stuff for it too. And then I don't know. I've got other ideas I've brought up in different Q&As just about like projects I'd like to do. But
Mhm.
currently, this is my this is my calling. So there we go.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
glad
it.
to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think, like, yeah, for your other ideas, do you think you want to do like kind of a focused topic, again, like somebody who's like a master of a skill or a niche thing, like with the
Yeah.
bookmakers?
I mean, it was actually it's a nice kind of story to get to do because you just
Hmm.
get to know people and a world, and it actually really followed on from the previous films I'd done, where I worked on post a series of wine films. There were three: a year in Burgundy, a year in Champagne, a year in Port, and the latter two are the ones I was shooting and editing.
Hmm.
And they got awards, and people like them, and the wine world knows them really well. So it was kind of like there was some set idea that like, oh yeah, people like crafts. Crafts make sense because it's an actual defined world. You can go
Hmm.
and see and visit. The one rule I had compared to those, because that was actually my dad directing, who's a
Hmm.
documentarian, is when we went to the bookmakers, is like, I don't want narration. Like,
Yeah.
I want people to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you're gonna get yourself in trouble sometimes. And I'm like, well, I'll just figure it out in the edit, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
No, I
yeah, I'd love to do more craft, but yeah,
yeah. I think it pays off a lot, yeah, not having that narration. You know what's going on, and yeah, you're letting them speak for tell the story. So
yeah, it did lead to quite a bit of horse trading in terms of like whose scene comes before whose, because you have to introduce
right.
certain ideas. Like there was one like argument where it's like, oh nuts, we've got like three white men in a row, we have different ages.
Mhm.
But I was like, well, it's kind of because it's about the apprenticeship thing that like
Mhm.
Mark is starting out. Oh, Russell Merritt also knows him. Oh, he worked with Peter Koch. And I'm like, yeah, there's a generational thing happening here that is part
Mhm.
of the story of how bookmaking still exists when it's not,
Mhm.
it's not trade publishing. I mean, that's all just like editors in New York and manufacturers in China.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much, James.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a great film, and we're so excited for people to see it and hopefully like get inspired. I mean, it wanted I've been going to my used bookstore and I don't have it with me, but I found a Playboy magazine in Braille. And
What?
even though I can't like read Braille, and it's from the National Library of Congress, and it's
What?
just like what a
Yeah,
cool thing to have,
yeah.
like So, it's just it's really really awesome, and yeah. So thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah, no, I've been getting back into books more too. I actually, people ask me sometimes if like, I'm like a total bibliophile. I'm like, nah, that's for convenience. I used to read stuff on my phone all the time, books on
Yeah.
my phone, because I'm just like, because I was on the bus, like,
Mhm.
um, but I've been back to books now. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm pretty agnostic about it. I think when
Yeah.
people like shame it, just like, you're not reading real books, I'm like, well, as long as you're reading,
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
point. Like,
Yeah. As
yeah.
long as you're getting a bit of it all. So,
Yeah, a little bit of something other than Instagram. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I am
Thank
going,
you for having me.
of course.